Ladies and gentlemen, let us take a moment to reflect on the fascinating nature of human emotion, particularly the enigma of anger. It's a fire that can ignite in an instant, consuming reason and leaving in its wake a complex aftermath of regret, clarity, or transformation. Today, I shall speak of those among us who find themselves quick to this flame, revealing 8 truths about their nature, truths that deserve both our understanding and compassion. First, they often carry a weight unseen by others. Anger is rarely born in isolation. It is the echo of deeper struggles, perhaps fear, disappointment, or unhealed wounds. This is not a justification, but a glimpse into the storms they navigate internally. Second, they are often fiercely passionate. Their intensity, though misdirected at times, stems from a place of deep care about justice, fairness, or being understood. Passion can be both a gift and a burden, and in their case, it often manifests as the latter. Third, their words can be sharp, yet these words often betray an insecurity or vulnerability they strive to mask. Anger for them becomes armor, a defense mechanism to keep perceived threats at bay. Fourth, they tend to act before they think. Impulsivity and anger often walk hand in hand. The fire burns too brightly to allow room for patience or reflection. But this doesn't mean they are incapable of such qualities. They merely need guidance to find them. Fifth, they are frequently misunderstood. It is easy to label them as difficult, volatile, or aggressive, yet few pause to ask what lies beneath this reaction. What pain has shaped this response? Sixth, they can be their harshest critics. After the storm subsides, they are often left to grapple with guilt, replaying their outbursts in solitude and wishing they had handled matters differently. Seventh, they are capable of immense growth. Once they recognize their tendencies, they can channel their energy into self-awareness and change. The transformation of anger into determination is one of the most powerful shifts a person can make. Finally, they remind us of our shared humanity. For who among us has not felt the sting of frustration or the heat of indignation? Their struggles hold up a mirror to our own, urging us to extend the empathy we would wish for ourselves. And so, my friends, let us not meet such individuals with judgment or dismissal. Instead, let us meet them with understanding, for anger is but one thread in the vast tapestry of the human spirit, a thread that, when unraveled, reveals the beauty and complexity within us all. Thank you. Anger is often perceived as an outward expression of frustration or aggression, but beneath its surface lies a labyrinth of emotional complexities. People who get angry easily frequently carry burdens that are not immediately visible to the world. Their outbursts are not simply about the momentary irritation or annoyance, rather they are echoes of deeper struggles that have shaped their emotional responses over time. These hidden struggles can stem from various sources, such as personal insecurities, unresolved trauma, or feelings of inadequacy that they may not even consciously recognize. Anger, in this context, becomes a defense mechanism, a way to project strength and control in situations where they feel vulnerable or powerless. One of the most common sources of anger is fear. Fear and anger are closely intertwined, as fear often fuels a sense of threat that triggers the fight or flight response. For individuals who are quick to anger, this reaction may be a deeply ingrained response to situations they perceive as threatening, even if no actual danger exists. The fear could stem from past experiences where they felt helpless or victimized, leading them to react aggressively to avoid feeling that way again. For instance, a person who has been repeatedly let down or betrayed might develop a hypersensitivity to any sign of disrespect or disloyalty. Their anger, while seemingly disproportionate, is an attempt to shield themselves from further harm. Another underlying struggle that fuels anger is unresolved emotional pain. Many individuals carry the weight of past experiences, failed relationships, childhood trauma, or unmet expectations that they have not fully processed. These unhealed wounds can manifest as anger, often triggered by situations that remind them of their past pain. For example, someone who felt neglected as a child might react with disproportionate anger when they feel ignored or overlooked in their adult life. These reactions are not about the present moment, but are tied to deeper, unresolved emotions that continue to influence their behavior. Insecurity is another significant contributor to anger. People who struggle with low self-esteem or feelings of inadequacy may become defensive when their perceived flaws are highlighted, whether intentionally or accidentally. Anger becomes a way to deflect attention from their insecurities, as lashing out can momentarily shift the focus away from their vulnerabilities. For instance, a person who feels incompetent at work might react angrily to constructive criticism, interpreting it as an attack rather than an opportunity for growth. Their anger serves as a protective shield, masking their inner doubts and fears of failure. For some, anger is a learned response. Growing up in environments where conflict and aggression were normalized can lead individuals to adopt these behaviors as coping mechanisms. If anger was the primary way conflicts were resolved in their family or community, they might come to believe that it is the only effective way to assert themselves or gain control. This learned behavior becomes deeply ingrained, making it difficult for them to respond differently, even when other options are available. Additionally, chronic stress plays a significant role in heightening anger. Individuals who are constantly under pressure, whether from work, relationships, or financial difficulties, often have little emotional bandwidth to handle additional challenges. Their anger is not necessarily about the immediate situation, but rather a cumulative response to the ongoing stress they are experiencing. For example, a person dealing with financial strain might react angrily to a minor inconvenience, not because the situation warrants it, but because it feels like the tipping point in already overwhelming life. Anger can also stem from a deep-seated need for control. For individuals who feel powerless in certain aspects of their lives, expressing anger can create an illusion of regaining control. This need often arises from experiences where they felt helpless or unable to influence outcomes, leading them to overcompensate by asserting themselves forcefully in situations where they can exert power. This response is not about dominance, but about reclaiming a sense of agency that they feel has been taken from them. Understanding that anger often masks deeper struggles requires empathy and a willingness to look beyond the surface. People who get angry easily are not inherently angry individuals. They are people grappling with internal battles that manifest as anger. Their reactions, while sometimes hurtful or disproportionate, are expressions of pain, fear, and vulnerability that they may not know how to articulate in healthier ways. Recognizing this does not excuse harmful behavior, but it provides a framework for addressing the root causes rather than merely focusing on the symptoms. When approached with patience and understanding, individuals who struggle with anger can begin to unpack the burdens they carry and learn healthier ways to cope. Addressing the underlying struggles that fuel their anger requires self-awareness, support, and often professional guidance, but the journey toward healing is both possible and transformative. By acknowledging the weight of their unseen struggles, they can begin to let go of the anger that has served as their armor and embrace a more balanced and fulfilling way of being. Anger, particularly in those who experience it frequently and with great intensity, often has its roots in passion. While anger may seem like a negative or destructive emotion, it is frequently an extension of deep care and investment in certain values, people, or outcomes. Those who are quick to anger are often driven by an innate desire for fairness, justice, or recognition, and their anger rises when these ideals feel threatened or unmet. This passion, though misdirected at times, is a powerful force that speaks to the depth of their emotional engagement with the world around them. At its core, anger is a reaction to perceived injustice or frustration. For someone who is deeply passionate, the world can feel overwhelming when it does not align with their internal sense of how things ought to be. They may have a strong moral compass or high expectations for themselves and others, and when reality falls short of these ideals, anger becomes the outlet for their disappointment. For example, someone passionate about honesty might react angrily when they perceive deceit, even in relatively minor situations. Their anger is less about the individual act and more about their broader commitment to truth and integrity. This intensity often extends to their relationships. People who are easily angered may care deeply about their loved ones and feel immense frustration when communication breaks down or when their needs are misunderstood. Their anger is not always a sign of hostility, but rather an expression of their desire to connect and be heard. In many cases, they struggle to find a way to channel this desire productively, leading to outbursts that obscure the genuine care at the heart of their reactions. For instance, a parent who reacts angrily to a child's misbehavior may not be driven by a desire to control, but by a deep concern for the child's well-being and future. Passion-fueled anger is not limited to interpersonal relationships. It often extends to larger societal issues. Many individuals who are easily angered are deeply attuned to issues of justice, equality, and fairness in their communities or the world at large. When they witness acts of oppression, corruption, or disregard for others, their anger reflects their commitment to creating a better world. This type of anger has historically driven significant social and political change, as passionate individuals channel their frustration into advocacy and reform. However, when this energy is not directed constructively, it can lead to feelings of helplessness and bitterness. Another aspect of passion-driven anger is the intense attachment to personal goals and ambitions. For those who are highly driven, any obstacle or failure can feel like a personal affront, sparking anger as a way of coping with the frustration. This reaction often stems from their deep investment in their work, dreams, or personal projects. For example, an artist who pours their soul into their craft may react angrily to criticism, not because they dismiss the feedback, but because it feels like an attack on their passion and identity. Their anger, in this sense, is a reflection of their dedication and the vulnerability that comes with exposing something they care about so deeply. The connection between passion and anger is further amplified by the intensity with which these individuals experience emotions. People who are quick to anger often feel emotions more deeply across the spectrum, whether it's love, joy, or sorrow. This heightened emotional sensitivity can make them more reactive when their passions are challenged or when they feel misunderstood. Their anger, while intense, is just one facet of their broader emotional capacity, which can also drive creativity, empathy, and resilience. It's important to note that the passion underlying anger is not inherently negative. In fact, it can be a tremendous source of strength and motivation when channeled appropriately. The challenge lies in learning how to harness this energy in ways that are constructive rather than destructive. For example, someone who is passionate about social justice might redirect their anger into activism, finding ways to affect change rather than becoming consumed by frustration. Similarly, someone who cares deeply about their relationships can learn to express their concerns in ways that foster understanding rather than conflict. Passion-fueled anger also reveals the inherent humanity in those who experience it. It reminds us that anger is not always about aggression or hostility. It is often about care, connection, and the desire to make a difference. When someone becomes angry, it is because something matters deeply to them. Recognizing this can shift the way we view anger, not as something to fear or condemn, but as a signal of the values and emotions that drive a person. This perspective allows for greater empathy and understanding, both for ourselves and for others. Ultimately, anger rooted in passion is a testament to the depth of one's emotional engagement with life. It is a sign that someone cares enough to react, to feel, and to want something better. While this energy can sometimes lead to conflict or frustration, it also holds the potential to inspire growth, change, and meaningful connection when understood and channeled effectively. When it comes to individuals who experience anger quickly, impulsivity and vulnerability are often at the core of their emotional reactions. Anger in these cases is not always a deliberate or calculated response, but rather a reflexive reaction that emerges before they have the chance to think things through. This impulsiveness is deeply tied to their emotional wiring, making it difficult for them to pause and reflect in the heat of the moment. Beneath this quick temper, however, lies a layer of vulnerability that they may not fully recognize or be willing to confront. Together, impulsivity and vulnerability create a complex interplay that shapes their interactions and emotional expressions. Impulsivity, in its essence, is the tendency to act without thinking about the consequences. For those prone to anger, this means that their reactions often occur almost instinctively, bypassing the filters of logic and reason. This behavior is not necessarily a choice, but a learned or habitual response that becomes automatic over time. For example, when someone feels disrespected or frustrated, their anger can flare up instantly, driven by a rush of adrenaline and heightened emotions. They may lash out verbally or physically, expressing their feelings without considering how their actions might affect others or themselves in the long run. This impulsive nature can be linked to a variety of factors, including personality traits, upbringing, or even neurological differences. Some individuals are naturally more reactive than others, with a lower threshold for emotional triggers. In such cases, the part of the brain responsible for emotional regulation, such as the prefrontal cortex, may struggle to override the immediate responses generated by the amygdala, the brain's emotional center. This biological explanation helps shed light on why some people seem unable to hold back when angered. It's not simply a lack of willpower, but a more complex interplay of brain chemistry and emotional patterns. Impulsivity in anger is also closely tied to a deep sense of vulnerability. People who react quickly and strongly to perceived slights or frustrations often do so because they feel emotionally exposed or threatened. Their anger serves as a form of self-protection, a way to shield themselves from further harm or discomfort. This defensive mechanism is particularly common in individuals who have experienced emotional pain or trauma in the past. For instance, someone who was frequently criticized or belittled as a child may react with disproportionate anger to any hint of criticism in adulthood. Their impulsive response is not just about the current situation, but also a reflection of unresolved wounds that make them hypersensitive to similar triggers. This vulnerability often goes hand in hand with feelings of insecurity or fear. Individuals who are quick to anger may harbor doubts about their own worth or abilities, which makes them more likely to interpret situations as personal attacks. Even minor comments or actions can feel like threats to their self-esteem, prompting an immediate and defensive reaction. For example, a person who is insecure about their performance at work might react angrily to constructive feedback, perceiving it as an accusation rather than an opportunity for growth. Their anger, while seemingly misplaced, is actually a response to the discomfort of feeling exposed or inadequate. Another aspect of this dynamic is the difficulty these individuals face in processing their emotions. For some, anger is the default expression for a range of feelings, including sadness, fear, or frustration. They may struggle to identify or articulate these underlying emotions, relying instead on anger as a more accessible outlet. This emotional impulsivity can create a cycle where anger becomes the go-to response, further reinforcing the habit of reacting without reflection. For example, a person who feels overwhelmed by stress might lash out at a loved one, not because they are truly angry with them, but because they lack the tools to express their underlying anxiety or exhaustion. The interplay between impulsivity and vulnerability also has significant implications for relationships. Quick-tempered individuals may struggle to maintain healthy and constructive interactions, as their impulsive outbursts can alienate others or escalate conflicts unnecessarily. At the same time, their vulnerability means that they deeply value these relationships and often feel regret or guilt after an outburst. This duality creates an internal conflict where they desire connection and understanding but often sabotage their own efforts through impulsive reactions. Understanding this dynamic requires acknowledging that impulsivity and vulnerability are not signs of weakness or malice, but rather indicators of deeper emotional challenges. People who struggle with quick anger often feel emotions more intensely than others, making it harder for them to regulate their responses. Their vulnerability, though often hidden beneath the surface, plays a crucial role in shaping their behavior as they seek to protect themselves from perceived harm or rejection. When viewed through this lens, impulsivity and anger becomes less about a lack of control and more about an unrefined emotional response. These individuals often have the capacity for great emotional depth and sensitivity, but their inability to pause and process in the moment can overshadow these qualities. By recognizing and addressing the underlying vulnerability that fuels their impulsive reactions, they can begin to break the cycle of quick anger and develop healthier ways of coping with their emotions. People who get angry easily are often misunderstood. Their frequent outbursts or intense reactions make them seem difficult, volatile, or even aggressive. However, this perception rarely captures the full picture of who they are and what drives their emotions. The reality is that their anger often stems from deeper struggles, emotional sensitivity, or unspoken frustrations that others fail to recognize or address. This misunderstanding creates a gap between them and those around them, leading to isolation, judgment, and further emotional turmoil. At the heart of this misunderstanding is the tendency to see anger as a surface-level emotion without exploring its underlying causes. When someone lashes out or reacts angrily, people often assume that their behavior reflects who they are at their core: hot-headed, difficult, or mean-spirited. However, anger is almost always a symptom of something deeper, such as pain, fear, or frustration. For example, a person who becomes enraged over a small mistake might not actually be upset about the mistake itself. Instead, their reaction may be tied to feelings of inadequacy or an overwhelming sense of pressure that has built up over time. By focusing only on the outward display of anger, others fail to see the emotional complexity beneath it. Another reason for this misunderstanding is the societal stigma surrounding anger. Anger is often viewed as a negative or destructive emotion, and people who express it are quickly labeled as problematic. This perspective overlooks the fact that anger, like any emotion, is a natural and valid response to certain situations. It is not inherently bad, but becomes problematic when it is poorly managed or expressed in harmful ways. However, those who struggle with anger are rarely given the benefit of the doubt or the opportunity to explain themselves. Instead, they are judged based on their behavior in the heat of the moment, reinforcing the stereotype that they are inherently angry or aggressive individuals. This lack of understanding is particularly pronounced in relationships. When someone reacts angrily, their loved ones may feel hurt, confused, or defensive, often interpreting the anger as a personal attack. They might assume that the angry person is being unreasonable, unkind, or overly critical without considering what might be driving the reaction. For instance, an individual who becomes angry during an argument might simply be struggling to articulate their feelings or fears, and their frustration manifests as anger. However, this nuance is often lost in the moment, leaving both parties feeling disconnected and misunderstood. Misunderstanding also occurs because anger can overshadow other aspects of a person's personality. Those who are quick to anger are often deeply caring, passionate, or sensitive individuals, but these qualities are easily overlooked when their anger takes center stage. Their outbursts may make it difficult for others to see their positive traits, creating a one-dimensional view of them as angry people. This perception can be frustrating and isolating for the individual, as they may feel that their true self is being overshadowed by moments of emotional intensity. This dynamic is further complicated by the fact that many people who get angry easily struggle to communicate their feelings effectively. They may not fully understand why they are angry or how to express their emotions in a constructive way. This lack of clarity can make it challenging for others to empathize with them, as their anger may come across as irrational or unwarranted. For example, a person who lashes out after feeling ignored might not be able to articulate their need for attention or validation, leaving others to interpret their anger as hostility rather than vulnerability. Additionally, misunderstanding arises when people fail to recognize the role that stress, trauma, or mental health challenges can play in shaping anger. Many individuals who get angry easily are dealing with significant internal struggles, such as anxiety, depression, or unresolved trauma. Their anger is not a reflection of their character, but a response to the overwhelming emotions they experience. Without this context, it is easy for others to dismiss their anger as an overreaction or a personality flaw rather than a symptom of deeper issues. The consequences of this misunderstanding can be profound. When people who struggle with anger are judged or dismissed, they may become more isolated and withdrawn, feeling that they cannot express themselves without being criticized. This isolation can exacerbate their emotional struggles, leading to a cycle of frustration, anger, and misunderstanding. Over time, they may internalize these judgments, viewing themselves as flawed or unworthy, which only deepens their emotional pain. On the other hand, a lack of understanding from others can also lead to escalating conflicts. When someone's anger is met with defensiveness or criticism, it can intensify their feelings of frustration and make it even harder for them to manage their emotions. For example, if a person reacts angrily to being misunderstood and their response is dismissed or invalidated, it reinforces their sense of being unheard, creating a vicious cycle that is difficult to break. Understanding individuals who get angry easily requires a willingness to look beyond their immediate reactions and consider the broader context of their emotions. Their anger is often a complex mix of pain, sensitivity, and unspoken needs, rather than a reflection of who they are as a person. By approaching them with empathy and curiosity, it becomes possible to bridge the gap of misunderstanding and create an environment where their emotions are acknowledged and addressed constructively. Individuals who are quick to anger may often seem as though they are trapped in an unending cycle of frustration and emotional outbursts, but it is important to recognize that beneath this intensity lies the potential for growth and transformation. Their struggles with anger, while at times destructive, also carry within them the possibility of profound self-awareness and personal development. With the right tools, support, and dedication, those who struggle with anger can redirect their energy into more constructive channels, leading to healthier relationships, greater emotional balance, and an increased capacity for positive change. This potential for growth is one of the most compelling aspects of dealing with anger. It's not just an emotional challenge to manage, but also an opportunity for profound transformation. The journey toward change begins with self-awareness. Understanding the root causes of one's anger is the first step in breaking the cycle of impulsive reactions. People who get angry easily often fail to connect their outbursts to underlying feelings such as fear, insecurity, or frustration. These emotions lie beneath the surface, and anger is often the quickest, most accessible outlet for them. By becoming more mindful of the triggers and underlying emotions, individuals can start to recognize patterns in their behavior. This awareness allows them to pause and reflect before reacting, which is the first step in managing their anger more effectively. For example, someone who frequently gets angry in stressful situations might begin to recognize that their frustration is not just about the immediate issue at hand, but also about their overall sense of being overwhelmed. Understanding this connection allows them to address the root cause of their anger stress rather than just responding to the surface-level irritation. Another crucial element of growth is learning how to channel the energy of anger into more productive outlets. Anger, when managed properly, can be a powerful motivator. It can drive individuals to stand up for themselves, pursue goals with determination, or address injustices in their lives. When channeled effectively, anger can be a catalyst for positive change. For example, someone who becomes angry at a perceived lack of fairness at work might use that energy to advocate for themselves or others, resulting in a more equitable environment. Similarly, individuals who become angry at the state of the world or social injustices may channel that anger into activism, contributing to meaningful societal change. Anger, when transformed into a force for good, can become a powerful tool for personal and collective growth. Therapeutic interventions can also play a significant role in helping individuals manage their anger and transform their emotional responses. Therapy, whether it's cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, mindfulness practices, or anger management programs, can provide the tools needed to understand and control anger. These approaches teach individuals how to identify their emotional triggers, reframe negative thought patterns, and adopt healthier coping strategies. Therapy can also help individuals uncover deeper emotional issues such as past trauma or unaddressed wounds that contribute to their anger. By addressing these root causes, individuals can begin to heal and gain control over their emotional responses. Furthermore, therapy encourages emotional regulation techniques that allow individuals to create space between their emotions and reactions, giving them time to process their feelings in a more balanced way. Social support is another key factor in the journey toward emotional growth. People who struggle with anger often benefit from surrounding themselves with understanding and patient individuals who can offer both guidance and perspective. Friends, family, and support groups can provide a safe space for individuals to express their feelings, reflect on their behavior, and gain constructive feedback. These supportive relationships help to reduce feelings of isolation, which often exacerbate anger. Knowing that others understand and empathize with their struggles allows individuals to feel less judged and more open to change. Additionally, support groups, particularly those for anger management, can provide a sense of community and shared experience, making individuals feel less alone in their journey toward growth. As individuals progress on their path to emotional balance, they often begin to develop a deeper sense of self-compassion. Recognizing that anger is not a reflection of personal failure, but rather an emotional challenge to overcome, can help to reduce feelings of shame or guilt. By reframing anger as an opportunity for growth rather than a flaw to be ashamed of, individuals can approach their anger with more acceptance and patience. This shift in perspective allows them to treat themselves with kindness during moments of emotional struggle, which in turn makes it easier to engage in the difficult work of change. The capacity for growth in individuals who get angry easily is not just about emotional regulation, it's also about a broader transformation in how they approach their lives, their relationships, and their goals. As they learn to manage their anger, they develop greater emotional intelligence, which allows them to relate more effectively to others and make more conscious decisions. They become better equipped to navigate challenges without resorting to anger, relying instead on more thoughtful and intentional responses. This emotional maturity, in turn, fosters healthier relationships and a greater sense of personal fulfillment. In essence, anger, when addressed and understood, becomes a powerful tool for self-growth. The journey of transformation is not always easy, and it requires dedication, introspection, and sometimes external support. However, with self-awareness, the right tools, and a commitment to change, individuals who struggle with anger can turn this emotional challenge into an opportunity for profound personal development. The result is a life marked by greater emotional balance, healthier relationships, and a deeper understanding of both oneself and the world around them. In conclusion, while anger can be a challenging emotion, it also offers opportunities for self-awareness and personal growth. By understanding its underlying causes, channeling its energy constructively, and seeking support, individuals can transform their anger into a powerful tool for positive change. Through dedication and self-compassion, they can develop emotional maturity, improve relationships, and achieve greater emotional balance.